Hi Titans. Okay, so today we're going to go back into Illustrator and continue our D3 project, which is our Design Triptych. As you can see here, the first one, just as a review, is all I did was take shapes of things from the internet and trace them so that I can have at least 10 or more, 10 to probably 12 or 15 at the absolute most, different pictures that I'm making them very graphic, which means low in color and low in detail, by just tracing their shapes. And we're going to use their shapes to first create what I'm calling the collection of our different pop culture references. In the second panel, it's going to be a little bit different. In the first panel, all we did was draw them and place them, so it looks like they're in some kind of collection. But you can't really see them individually, and in the second part, that's what we're going to mainly focus on. So the next step is to literally just start taking them. I'm going to take copies of them, however, so I'm going to hold down my Alt button while using my selection tool to copy them into the second panel or artboard. If I hold shift when I'm basically transforming them, I'm just not using the transform function, I can make them small. So what I want to do is I want to create rows of them. I want to have at least 4 rows of 5. So I'm just going to keep going to here, holding my Alt button, dragging it over to this row, holding my shift button and making it small. But I don't think I need you to see me do that 20 times. So I'm now going to do it on my own, and I'll come back to you in just a sec. Okay, so as you can see, I tried to mix them up a little bit, mix and match them. I tried to make it so nothing goes twice in the same row, and I tried to make it so no 2 rows are alike. But I've basically created a pattern using these as my shapes in my pattern. So now I have a pattern of at least 20. I actually did 1 more row than, or 2 more rows than I needed to do because they fit nicely. So I thought, why not? Now what I'm going to do is, as you can see, I changed a few of their colors, but they're just the flat colors. And these characters, which I wanted to stand out a little bit, have fades. But now I'm going to go into them and I'm going to change every one to create variation among the entire pattern. I don't want it to read as though the same thing over and over again. Even though that's what a pattern is, I want it to have still a little bit of variation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my selection tool to select one of these, and I'm going to go through my options bar and change various things about it. One thing I might change is the color. I also might add an outline or stroke. I might change the size of the stroke so that you can see the stroke more clearly. I might change whether the stroke is uniform or not. I might change the style of the stroke. So I might make it something like that or something like this. Now, some of these are going to react oddly, by the way, so I don't want you to just choose the first one that you land on every time. I want you to explore these folders. So I was in here. So I go into this folder and there's artistic. There's tons of these that are awesome. They're really cool to look through. So check those out. You're going to find some really cool outlines or strokes in there. You can of course search the other folders as well, but I don't want you to just use the 4 or 5 that are up here because, well, they're boring. Everybody uses them every time. So go into these folders and explore a little bit. Artistic would probably be the place where you're going to get the best and most of the cool stuff. All right, so I've changed that. Now, I might also change my style, which is over here. This was the style of the outline, but this is the style of the entire object. In these folders, you'll also find things like 3D effects. And hopefully you've used some of these in other projects, but I still want to give you a little review of them. So I could click this, and that's going to change it and make it 3D. Now also there's plenty of other folders that you can go through. 3D is my favorite, so it's where I like to hang out. But I definitely would encourage you to check out all these other areas and find things that people don't use all the time. Another thing is that with some of them, you could even change the colors so that the interior color in there is, a different color after you put the 3D on. So that won't work with everything, by the way. Some things are just incompatible, and you'll find out that nothing happens. See, as you can see, I just did that here with the stroke. The stroke did not become orange, so I know that that's not compatible. So sometimes that'll happen. But anyway, you basically want to create variations so that no 2 of your objects are exactly the same for the entire pattern here. So I'm going to do that to all of mine, just changing different ones of these different times. I don't have to change every single one for every single picture, but I want to change them so they're notably different each time, and I create a lot of variation. All right, so with that said, I'm going to come back to you in just a minute when you see what it looks like. Okay, so this is a good example of what you want for your, what I'm calling your wrapping paper one. I just wanted to present another choice. I have these so they're in clear rows and columns, but there's also something called staggering. You might decide to like make it so that one goes up, one goes down, one goes up, one goes down, and have that go through the entire piece. So that's up to you. If you want to stagger them instead of putting them in clear rows, I'm going to like actually move a row off, because if I do this to my whole page, it's not going to be enough room. So I'm going to move this row off for a minute, and then I'm going to do that and come back, and you'll see what it looks like. So this is an example of staggered lines, so that they go basically in the spaces between each other. So there's still clear lines here, but you can see that they're offset from each other. All right, one thing that you're going to have to do no matter which choice you do is you're going to create a background for this one. So we're using our pen tool, click and release anchor points on each corner of that page. Now, you can see here that I happen to have a pattern set, which looks kind of crazy. I'm going to object, arrange, send it to the back so it goes behind all of my pictures, and there you go. Now I lose some of my pictures here because they happen to be similar colors. So chances are I'm going to want to make sure, by using the selection tool, I can make sure that I could see everything. I could change the colors of the background. I probably don't want it. I could do a simple color, or I could do one of these other things, but you want to make sure that you could see everything. Okay, so I also wanted to show you that once you make one of these gradients, that's what these are called, you could double click right here and you could change the color of your gradient, so you don't have to stick with what they have. If I want to add an extra color, I could do that by double clicking where there's not a color. If I want to remove a color, I can just pull it off, click and drag it down, and it'll pull it off. That's how you can change your gradient. You can also change your type of gradient right up here. So if you wanted to have something more circular or something, you could do that as well. Just again, now I would have to, the other option is I'd have to go back and change the color on this one so that it stands out a little bit more. Maybe like something like that. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial of part 2. Part 3 is coming next.